All right, so I'm recording from two places, from this camera and from my iPad, because weirdly, um, sometimes if I use only my computer, then the screen will go black and I won't be able to really record anything. That's weird. It used to not happen, but okay. Many things that are weird happen to me very often, and then that has been my life for at least 8 years. So I might be wrong in this, but I have a theory. Uh, since okay, this start to happen specifically, like let's say really hard, since around 2017. At that time, the Minister of Immigration and Border Protection was Peter Dutton. Peter Dutton was also the Minister for Home Affairs. So my visa was granted in 2018. My refugee visa must has been granted by Peter Dutton, by his office, because I received a letter from the government saying that my case went up to the desk to the Minister of Home Affairs. My visa was granted in April of 2018. By then, Peter Dutton was the minister. It means that if I had plans to go with my ex-girlfriend to Slovenia, then my ex-girlfriend at that time to Slovenia, and she had an aneurysm, and that aneurysm was caused by this kind of technology, then it means that I was forced to stay in Australia. The visa was speeded up, because think about this. I was checking the dates. The aneurysm of my ex-girlfriend was the 16th of April, and I received the 5th of April the visa. So the visa was speed up 5th of April. 11 days later, 16th of April, then she had the aneurysm. She should have been dead, but she didn't die. She survived. Luckily, the person who was riding the ambulance knew exactly what she had and take her to the only clinic in Slovenia in which they could treat the aneurysm. And then she stayed in coma for 15 days, and she used to describe a lot of dreams that are related with the creation of situations like in the movie Inception. And this is also done by this kind of technology. And then it means that they maybe will try to see if she was a spy or something. Honestly, I don't know. I mean, she could have been, but the situation is like even if that's true, uh, the situation is that they probably didn't find anything and they fuck it up. And what they did was to continue to use that technology. So I will. So they intentionally try to make me do a kind of terrorist act. They intentionally try to push me to create one of those fake news in which someone called saying that they're gonna be a bomb in somewhere, and then they make news out of that. So this technology pushed me. It failed. I mean, I'm simply someone who has a lot of baggage in philosophy and psychoanalysis. So it's very, very, very unlikely that I will do such a thing related with violence. I also know critical thinking and reasoning and Uh, well, besides critical thinking, is about, well, it's just, trying to find truth. So I will have these concepts sit from a young age. So I don't believe in God, I don't believe in spirits, I don't believe in magic. So when this started to happen to me, before being diagnosed with schizophrenia, which is induced, I, I would simply feel that everything was coming from outside. It feels that everything was induced. You could feel the electromagnetic field in your brain, and that electromagnetic field just became obvious with time. And you can see the patterns. You can see that the information comes sometimes from posts in your, let's say, Facebook post, in your X account post, in your, I mean, the information from which the voices feeds you assume things from you coming from technological means. That's very interesting. And also, they know your transactions, maybe in your credit card. Yeah, because also some information comes from what appears from your credit card. There is nothing that the voices will bring that comes before mobile phones, or before you had a mobile phone. It means that in my case, my first mobile phone, which I had more or less in 2006, 2000, maybe 5, I can't remember. That was the first mobile phone that I had. There is my voices that's supposed to be coming from my unconscious, that's supposed to tell me things that I don't know about myself, or maybe child trauma, past trauma. Doesn't make sense because they cannot bring anything related child trauma. They only bring information that could have been taken, and sometimes easily something that information that I took from or write about in technological means. So this is becoming obvious, and this is worrisome because it, it could be not just a situation in which they could have done something to me. It is likely that they have kept doing these things with people. It means that probably people that becomes extreme right are persons that doesn't know critical thinking, are persons that doesn't understand consciousness, and most likely these persons are only having one view in their algorithm, and it's very likely that all the information that they got ideologically is coming from technological means. It's likely that they only read one book, not two or three, or it's likely that they haven't had the cognitive tools to see different parts of their reality. But most likely they had taken their information from technological means. So this means that, as it happened to me, that I was supposed to be angry against the people, this is the situation. You hear a lot of voices, these voices treat you badly, these voices are insulting you, and these voices are pushing you. Plus, you also have triggers that are stimulations, and you feel a trigger, but you don't even know why. Simple is, let's say, you could have actually even an eventual trigger, and then localizing what is the trigger and applying more stimulations to it will make you feel that the trigger is just being naturally strong. But that's not the situation. It's like reinforcement learning from this kind of technology that eventually is just stimulating a specific part of your brain with a purpose. So if this is happening to a lot of people, then it means that most likely it might have influenced terrorist attacks. It might have influenced violence attacks around society. In my case, it might have meant that they did not allow me to leave Australia, gave me the visa, give an aneurysm to my ex-girlfriend, so maybe she could be dead, and produce me or induce me a kind of psychosis in which I will commit a terrorist act, a violent act against society. And it happened at least, it happened technically every day for a long time, for months. But in severe cases, it happened about 3 times. I mean, maybe 4 really specific plans that I was supposed to develop. Like, let's say, what you experience is that whilst you are in that state, your feed in your social media, whether it's Facebook or X, because it had happened to me in both, becomes, let's say, full of knives. You start to see knives and knives and knives. Weird. What I do is take those posts and give them, I don't want to see more of this. But when I used to have Facebook at that time, I would see things coming from ISIS, from the Islamic State. Yeah, I would see even videos that I wouldn't understand. Some of the videos of beheadings and things like that were there. I did not watch them because I knew already that were those, but they will appear. They were, as soon as I would see that, okay, they're gonna do something super, super weird, I'm gonna leave. It doesn't mean that I have not seen those videos before, in the sense that I've seen gruesome videos. It doesn't mean that I'm simply let's say, sensitive to not watch them. It means that because I know those videos, let's say in the past, I would see them just as a curious person. I know that this is contamination for the brain, yeah? But then I will see many of these coming from in the feed, yeah? Once and again and over, I was experiencing a kind of induced psychosis. Is this a coincidence? Facebook has had, let's say, in the Congress declaration that I'm not really sure if Mark Zuckerberg himself, but Facebook has replied to the media saying that sometimes the algorithm could just target depending similar people and give them the same information. And man, I think I'm not someone that could be targeting that way. Yeah, because simply I'm not fanatic of any of that stuff. Yeah. And also I should not be targeting, I mean, the algorithm, if you design an algorithm, it's very unlikely that these situations will develop. So it probably means that the algorithm will be purposely done in that way. And why? Because the algorithm was not the algorithm at that time. In 2017, the algorithm was neural networks or deep learning or reinforcement learning, or otherwise called AI. Yeah, it could have been that, most likely. Now, if well, I might be wrong, but Most likely I'm right. I mean, AI is not a new technology. AI has been there since the 60s. Yeah. Also, let's say even Salvador Allende in Chile before the coup, he will try to create a centralized economy based on this kind of technology, which is cybernetics and reinforcement and data collection. And yeah, then if Peter Dutton was the Minister of Home Affairs at that time, and he also was the Minister of Migration and Border Protection. He must have rushed my visa. He must have rushed my visa when he knew that I'm gonna leave. When he knew that my plan was whether go to Germany and tell them, look, I have this case. This is my case, and I went and I've been waiting for this visa in Australia for 5 years, and I really want to go to university. I want to study. I cannot start a life. It's difficult to find an unstable job. It's difficult to find an employer that will take you because you don't have certainty of staying in the country. I cannot access all the services as someone with a PR will have, or someone with citizenship. So this is my case. I was likely going to the embassy, so I would like to go to Germany, and I have all the paperwork. This is technically what I gave to the Australian government. If you could simply accept me there instead of here, because the liberals were just cutting the numbers of uh, the numbers of asylum protection visas, and also they were trying to trade um, uh, refugees. This was with Donald Trump, etc. And I also think that if I would have commit any of those things that the technology was leading me to, it would have benefited the politics of which party? The liberals. This is a pattern. I mean, this is based in truth, in the sense that if this could have happened, it would have benefited them. It did not happen. But it was probably a situation in which my visa was rushed, because I'm 100% sure that this is a technology, although you have to be critical and you have to keep the two situations on board. Like maybe I'm schizophrenic, or maybe I'm saying what is true and it will make sense why so many weird things happen right now, especially why so many people is confused. It will tell you why the world is surrounded by satellites. Yeah. So I did never commit any crime. I think in 2021 I did an experimentation that I questioned, and nothing really criminal. I would say nothing really out of this world. Otherwise, I mean, I don't naughty, being naughty, like, okay, there is free stuff here, take two of those. It's not that often that I do that, but I have never done anything that will take me to jail. I have never ever done anything, that will put me in a court, whether because they didn't catch me or because they they could catch me or anything. No, so this is a situation in which let's say I do believe it was purposely done, because check this out. What will be better than someone from Colombia who likes social sciences, who read Marx, who, let's say, has a story of buying books like Guerrilla Warfare of Mao Zedong? Well, I also have many, many books. So you can see just here. I have many, many books. All this collection of books. I have all this collection of books. Let this go till the very end. These are 2 rows of books. These are 2 rows of books in this shelf. And when I was living in Sydney, I lost, sadly, most of my library, which was a huge bag, luggage. And yeah, that was painful because I couldn't save my books. Most of my notes were there. And maybe they thought, oh fuck, he's like left leaning. He's in Australia and he met, or not met, but let's say if you go to a protest, you will find other people who might be politically aligned with the protest. And in those, I met refugees from many countries in South America. And many these countries were just living the wave of dictatorships that happened in Central America and South America. So if you have someone in the news who is related with people who used to fight these dictatorships, like really fight dictatorships with machine guns and grenades and all that stuff, and it's related, yeah, with me, who comes from the national universities. Let's say the most in Colombia, I used to study in the national university, which is the, let's say, most political inclined university. I'm not saying that it's left-leaning or anything, but let's say in that place is really critical. It's an autonomous university. There are not many universities like those in the world. Let's say in Australia, the universities lecture you. It means that, in the national university, even the Minister of Education cannot tell what the university should lecture. It's up to the university. It's up to the board of, let's say, executives that lead the university. So it allows you to develop free thinking. It allows you to know that as a free thinker, you should not sacrifice your critical thinking and your free thinking. It allows you to be an observer by conscience. Then these cognitive tools allow you to be critical and maybe to be able to explore this kind of situations in which, yeah, why this happened? Is this real? What is evil? Explorations that exist, are there, cannot be denied. Yet many people wouldn't like to go, and it's part of solving problems in society. Then, if, let's say, Peter Dutton rushed my visa, and I was given afterwards psychosis. I mean, not psychosis, but let's say they will put voices in my mind. They will not allow me to sleep. They would not allow me to laugh, try to cut every single social interaction with other people, isolate me, confuse me. With time, the deterioration that comes with not sleeping is huge. And if they try to put me in a position, I will simply lose my mind and commit something violent, because rushing my visa and putting me quickly in that place and trying to kill my ex-girlfriend with an aneurysm that is done with weapons of mass disruption. I mean, just check the videos of James Giordano. Then it means that I could have appeared in the news as someone left-leaning, coming from, let's say, already politically kind of, dramatic, well-known university, and who was meeting with people who, many of them were guerrilla fighters, left-leaning, people who were refugees that survived dictatorships. And then it will mean that I could have been someone in the news that will appear as a foreigner, as an immigrant, as an asylum seeker, left-leaning. Perfect, because it's the perfect terrorist that you could use for politics. It's the perfect terrorist that you could use to create a scandal. And it felt for me in that way. Because every single time I have psychosis in that way, which is induced, it tried to be politically related. And as soon as I start to divulge, as soon as I start to divulgate that this was a technology, then symptoms that are not related with the schizophrenia appear, which is all related with the Havana syndrome. I've been having for already a month or more this high-pitched sound, like in the movie Left the World Behind. I have started to feel pain in my brain depending of what I think, which is very related with the N3 project of DARPA and many other projects. Let's say a day like today, I woke up at 4 a.m. in the morning. I assume was straight without. My biology just totally changed because I had no any kind of, and I wouldn't feel asleep. I just woke up straight away. And this is a project that is depicted in the site of DARPA. In the site of DARPA, you can see another kind of programs in which people go to sleep quickly. And you know what's the problem? That I believe that maybe simply they will kill me now. I'm shadow banned. I'm shadow banned in my videos, and it probably they will kill me. And now it's time to release the videos and make propaganda out of that because he's dead. And that's a way in which technically will, according to social sciences, let's say studies of propaganda and studies of how capitalism subsumes everything that is, let's say, seems foreign and become part of it. Yeah, like for example, the Che Guevara's shirt. It's like it's not replicating the ideology, but actually taking that as a product to sell it. So I'm afraid, let's say, when I'm talking about that, I have headaches. It's probably that, but just, well, you cannot see it, but well, that's the situation. And maybe they will use me as propaganda. They will just release the video, publish them in the media, make a scandal, maybe change the laws out of that. I'll be already dead because that's the point. In the meantime, I'll be the shadow banner. Well, also, this might be the reason why, let's say, the far right is rising. Do you believe that a phenomenon like the rising far right around the world is something organic? How will it be possible? How will it be possible that different jurisdictions around the world, especially the most developed ones, having different geographies, different cultures, different background, different history, will align politically? I mean, what's happening is that if people had a little bit of time to think, they will comprehend. And people like me, like that think to try to solve this problem, to invest time in them without getting anything back, is placed with a diagnosis of schizophrenia and sent to the hospital. Give a sentence of take medication because that medication gonna kill you quicker. So simply you become like a problem, a critic, or you have a political idea, then there must be a kind of political police that tells you you're gonna die quicker. In the meantime, take antipsychotics, then you will not be able to lead, because to lead you need a lot of energy. If you are in antipsychotics, your triggers are not as, let's say, they don't feel as dramatic as you will have in your normal biology. Let's say if you see an accident, you will not react straight with, okay, let's help or let's run, or you will be in shock straight away. No, because trigger will have a delay. Maybe just 1 minute after you will start to feel your nerves going up. So I do believe also my situation is becoming like a snowball effect, because I understand that this is frightening. I understand that many people does feel fear about this because it feels frightening. But I could understand the fear, especially if you or someone could have been blackmailed. But I'm not afraid to be blackmailed, because there is nothing which they could blackmail. I mean, what's the worst thing they could do? Maybe they record me illegally having sex or something like that. But that's cheap. But otherwise, there's nothing which they will have to blackmail. Then, in this sense, they have a lot to lose. And I really try to do my best for years. But simply, I cannot stand back now because they have been pushing too hard. Every single time, they treat you like a total idiot. And they will just recently start to place racial slurs. So this is the thing. They could, in my opinion, what they can also create is change the perception of a person that sees just reality as it is, and create fears in such a way that the persons, or what I feel that is they are trying to be with me right now, is try to create a kind of rational mindset in which, let's say, they will put words like white people, and it's very interesting that, let's say, the people who call white people are not the blacks or not the Latinos. Yeah, that's very interesting. But they push that rhetoric, they also push the rhetoric saying, I'm an Indian. They push these kind of dreams. Just yesterday night, one of the dreams was that I was in India and I was Indian. One of the dreams that I had just recently as well was very interesting. The last days I've been trying to do my homework, my assignments for my Masters of National Security, and they had been using a kind of technology that makes you really tired, like super tired. And yeah, I was technically feeling so tired that I went to my beanbag and I fall asleep. The last time it happened to me was about 9 years ago because I have not been able to fall asleep in that manner because I'm tired in 9 years. If I try to take a nap, I will not be able because my illness supposed to not allow me to sleep. I supposed to not be able to sleep if I don't take my medication, but it was yesterday at 6 p.m. and I fell asleep. And it's happening during this time in which I'm posting these videos, etc. And suddenly I start to have a dream that has nothing to do with me. And I start to say words in the dream. I start to say things like I was driving and there was a restaurant and I crashed the people in the restaurant. But it felt like it wasn't me. It felt that the images were there and the words were coming out of a dialogue. But then I was watching all this stuff happening, in which I see and see, and then my words just say something that has nothing to do with me. And actually, then I step up in the dream, and I'm fuck. This is just weird again. But this will make sense for the people in the future because most likely you will be inserted dreams. You will be tested by dreams. As far as I know, there are companies trying to see if they could do advertisement in dreams. You know? Let's have a look on it. I'll try to now install the screen capture. Oh, okay. Okay, it says advertisers are hijacking your dreams, scientists say. Okay, this is the MIT Media Lab. The SSRN, the nightmare of dream advertisement. Okay, this is a kind of think tank, well known. The future of advertisement is our dreams. And this is happening already with me, so they are also experimenting with me. And let's say they will find, okay, how can I use this? Okay, trying to work, but it's fine. Well, how they can do this? This is easy with AI. You recognize the imaginary or the generator of imagery in the brain, and then you beam that information into the brain, and this is decoded by AI. Yeah, I mean, it's technically simple. AI is doing crazy things like creating new kinds of materials and new kinds of proteins, new kinds of drugs, new kinds of everything. So this shouldn't be like, oh, super weird. Yeah, it's not the situation. So yeah, this is happening already. This is happening, and what I want to say is that it's very likely that if I'm right because I experienced it in that way, and if I'm right that I was rushed the refugee visa because I was going to another country, and then they thought that I'm gonna be a violent person, that would be useful to just stir up with this technology and cause some violent acts in society, then they thought that that will make great news and benefit politically the Liberal Party. Because if that happened, then I will appear as a left-winning, extreme left-winning person who met ex-guerrilla fighter here or in Australia, refugees. But again, these people was fighting dictatorships, and it will appear also that I, at that time, also I was, let's say, when the first time or many of these people, one of them actually was an old man who fought with, with Che Guevara. That's what they said. It was very silent. I think he's dead already. He couldn't almost speak and need some help for walking. He actually couldn't stay too long sitting. Old man. Took a picture with him. Yeah, then, yeah, that time I asked the union of this CFMAU. I asked to the, well, she was the head of the CFMAU in Sydney, and I asked her if we could do that, an event there. I can't remember even why we did it or what it was related to. I think, yeah, it was about the dialogues of peace in Colombia that were happening at that time. So it will look like maybe I will be a guerrilla or link it with the guerrilla, and maybe it will be convenient to do some peace talks. You know, they can't portray it in that way. They can't portray that stuff in that way. But it's nothing. It's just simply having common sense that you could make peace. You should not make war because it's more convenient. It's even more economically efficient to have people sane, healthy, and alive than simply having less people. Economic wise, every single time a person dies and is young, it's millions of dollars. Well, now maybe it would be really convenient to make news about that. But why I say that? Because the first time I experienced this kind of induced psychosis, it followed a pattern in which I should have been violent towards society. They induce you per month in a situation in which you really are so dissociated from reality that you could do a tragedy. And I was so dissociated from reality that I simply couldn't know what was true and what was not true. But at the same time, my nature and my, let's say, my psychoanalysis work and my philosophy, let's say my philosophical studies guide me through this nightmare. So I was able to comprehend the feelings that could be developed, but not express those feelings in a violent way. And knowing that, I noticed that I was induced to commit a kind of violence, or that I was induced to say I have a bomb and this gonna explode, or maybe mix that with violence in the sense that I have a bomb and I really gonna do this. and it's gonna be let's say a false positive, or it could be done as well. And the third time it happened, it was related with the bombs that exploded in Israel. No, sorry, the Israel operative that happens in Lebanon. Yeah, when the pagers exploded, again, my social media just changed. They were showing me uh, things, and voices just lead me to a place, and it felt that supposed to say, I was supposed to spread misinformation, and I was supposed to spread uh, kind of false news in the sense that explaining how those devices could have actually exploded. The truth is that I wasn't there. I never watched one of those pages. I never been in Israel or Lebanon. I never been in Hungary when the pages were fabricated. So, I mean, only the only possible in which that could have been true for me is because I will get one of those pages that came from that factory in Hungary, and then open the thing and check that whatever they did is real, and that's it. But I knew that simply whatever I would say wouldn't make sense because it's not provable. So that's how it felt the last time. That's how it felt, and following that logic, it feels like this is a snowball, and I don't want people to make propaganda out of me, you know. And if this can cause you the effects of schizophrenia, in the sense that if this makes you schizophrenic because simply every single part of your nervous system is hijacked, then it's possible to create swings of mood, and then you will be diagnosed with bipolar. It's possible to create chronic pain, and then you will be diagnosed with chronic pain. It means that if this technology that I'm telling you is true, it means that the targeted people is real and they are talking the truth. That the people that consider themselves incels, it's true. It's probably likely that the lone wolves have been manufactured products. It's very likely the, it's very likely that illness can be the sign. It's very interesting that, let's say, being gay was an illness. It was in the DSM-5. It's very interesting that transgender euphoria used to be an illness, and it's not anymore. So the DSM-5, every single illness is a social construction. It's a list of checks. Let's say it's a list that has symptoms and becomes check. And if you have those symptoms, check, 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 and you have certain thing. And if it's possible to hijack your brain and your nervous system, then it's possible to create new kinds of mental illnesses, new kinds of disease, and it means that someone could have the power just to screw someone's life, yeah, at any time, or limit someone's life at any time. Because what I'm happening is like I could go outside, I could go to the supermarket, I could walk, people see me, and it will be weird if people who see me in the hood just watch one of those videos, because they couldn't make sense. But this is a quantum strategy. It means that I'm kind of free, but at the same time, these weapons of mass disruption allow you to not be free and limited, and you are limited. Yeah, you are limited because these weapons of mass disruption have to continue as soon as you are diagnosed to keep the theater going. And it means that these weapons of mass disruption explain what people with Havana syndrome experience. And it also means that no one can really know who is it, because truly I cannot see the magnetic waves. Yeah. So in one sense, what I experience is real. In other sense, what the people see is not real. It's just a diagnosis. In one sense, it can be happening, and maybe someone in a base, in a military base, is doing it. And in another sense, society doesn't know about this. And it comes with a problem, because if you study cybernetics, what is that book? Yeah, this book. The human use of human beings. It means that you're gonna use this technology so people can follow a predetermined path, or only one path, right? And depending on certain conditions. Yeah? Because in the future we're gonna have things like AG, artificial general intelligence, supposed to see everything. Yeah, supposed to have so many oracles, cameras, devices, radars, that it will know everything in the environment. And if you combine this technology or this experimentation that is happening to me with AG, then it means that something like social mobility will be as hard as in the human gladiator, as the person who did gladiator in the movie. Yeah, that was Freudian sleep. Then induce, but then imagine social mobility will become as hard as the movie, the main character in the movie Gladiator. It means that technically we want to be in a cybernetic society. Is this what we want? We want to make humans as machines, and we're gonna make machines more human-like. That's a problem, because also, do we want to follow capitalism so we create just consumers, people that doesn't live but only consume? Do we want to, instead of prolong the people to be, let's say, wiser in the long term, to learn more? Instead of that, we give them an illness, because from my point of view, it feels that I'm just consuming. It feels that I could just go to Medicare to consume. It feels that I just receive the salary from my insurer, yeah, the wages protection. It feels that I go and study and get the HEX debt. It feels that I could get another kinds of debts, but it feels that I'm only consuming. Well, I love HEX, don't get me wrong. That's the best thing that could have happened in my life. But it feels like that. And that might be also a precursor of pre-stages of the universal basic income. So in this case, then probably the future of society will be not like the Matrix, but worse. Because instead to, let's say, having an education system in which the first years of life of a person are focused, so good memories can be created, resilience can be created, and the values and virtues to be a good citizen can be created, then be productive. And instead we are doing something like We want the people to only study for the economy. We want people to be weak. So sometimes these kind of safe spaces do not allow the interaction for people to be resilient, to expose themselves, to face maybe a debate, to face an argument that might contradict their views, and create a kind of reasoning and wiseness to construct appropriate response to them, and not being able to create these spaces in which they confront ideas, but instead they should not have triggers. And if we are only creating the education that will help for the economy and not for making good citizens, and if we are creating a kind of society in which everyone should look alike and behave alike, and I mean, these things are important in certain settings, but if people is less likely to explore the human condition and more likely to become unconscious, instead to seek light and become more conscious, more knowledgeable, then we are not going into an enlightenment, but this is a kind of dark ages, new dark ages coming, and this is related with maybe something that Yanis Varoufakis called techno-feudalism. Slavoj Žižek called this extreme liberalism, and he sometimes debates about should we call it extreme liberalism or should we call it liberal fascism? Because it seems that some realities will be shut down. One of the features of fascism is that everyone has one reality. You cannot contradict the party. You cannot contradict the reality that everyone is experimenting. But then it's possible to create limited realities. It's like having, instead to have one pencil for everyone, is to have a bunch of colors in which the persons could choose, but they cannot use those colors to create other colors. They have to use what is in the color box, nothing else. It's like the choices that they put you there are nothing else. So that will be, an evolution for fascism. At least there will be more kind of realities, but it won't be one reality that is totalitarian for everyone. And so, but then this is worrisome, because if everyone, or most of the developed countries, are becoming now extreme right-wing, then it means, and I'm right, that this technology is capable of just doing what it's doing to me, that it's setting your mind to see the things as a rational thing, maybe exploiting your anger, exploiting your fears, and so on. Then it's possible that many of these political extreme views come engineered. And if these political views are engineered, extreme right, it's gonna become rational at some stage. And we had Elon Musk doing design, and we have these groups, and we have political correctness, in which I cannot say, let's say, economic jokes, because it's not political correct. Let's say, if I cannot make jokes about my friends that are black, it means that And being polite, according with Zizek, I get the politeness surplus, in which I feel great because I'm polite, decent, and it just boosts my ego. And my black friend do not have, as a black person, recognize that they are in disadvantage statistically just for being black. Yeah? One person who is black statistically is already more likely to be in disadvantage. And that's what political correctness hides. If I'm an immigrant, it follows also a similar logic. Then these things can be covered and masked in several ways. And what is the solution? The solution is to teach people how to read. Let's say the French will be a language so difficult to read, write, because it was designed in the way that cannot be decoded just logically straight away. So it was written in the old days in a way in which the peasants and the poor people wouldn't learn how to read it. They could pronounce it, but they didn't know how to read it because they would see a lot of vowels that doesn't make sense sometimes together. Yeah, the E is not pronounced in the words at the end of the French language. Yet the E is still there for no reason. So we have vowels that are silent. And the point of the vowels is to make a distinction of sound specifically. Now, in the old days, people were not taught to read and write because the powers at that time didn't want the people to acquire knowledge. There were also certain high, let's say, not academic, but these will be kind of groups of people who had a lot of knowledge, like erudites. There were erudites who will speak languages in which only certain knowledge could be transmitted, like Latin. Latin will be one of those languages in which certain knowledge can be transmitted, but that knowledge will never be translated to other languages. It will be reserved for only those that were taught Latin. And we have a similar situation with the ancient Greek and ancient Hebrew, and we have a similar situation with different languages. Yeah, and but anyway, the point is like right now it is necessarily that everyone knows how to read because otherwise people won't be able to survive. Yeah, so something like that needs to happen, like an upgrade in which people learn how to read because it is necessarily for our society, let's say the Western world or even the whole world, to have more social cohesion. Because that's the point, you have to have more social cohesion. And social cohesion breaks down, breaks away, pulls apart if you have many means that could affect the interactions of people in ways that people doesn't understand, doesn't follow, do not master, do not comprehend, are not taught, then you will create a break in the fabric of society. Like the fabric of society will be broken. Let's say in the old days, if you say to people, you cannot see each other again. You cannot see each other again. You in the old ages, let's say, you will not see each other again. You are not able to communicate to each other, and the way in which you will communicate is through this device, through the mobile phone. Then people will start to make calls. People will only talk with people at certain times during the day. It's not like you just wake up to partner and then you have a chat with her. It's not that simply you can call anyone at any time. And then you could start also to develop a different culture in which letters will not be used. Yeah. And then you will have a society in which every individual is more a part of each other, because what used to become verbal means are not anymore there, and these verbal means are more like digital, and it creates a different kind of culture fabric. And yeah, let's say it's not optional, etc. And if you start to insert more conditions in which people supposed to relate to each other and how you are able to influence other people, let's say something like happened in the 90s, in which, let's say, the business that will have mobile phones will be an advantage. Let's say to know things in the market. I could call someone and knowing that maybe some shares will go up, I will call someone else, hey, this share's gonna be up, so you better buy them to make some money. Give me 10% out of that. Then these people will be in advantage, yeah? And this is a pattern that always repeats. But nowadays, if this technology is true, as I say, then some people is in a huge advantage, because this is voice to the school. Some people technically could ask to, hey, ChatGPT, tell me, yeah, when the LED was invented, yeah, and then it will have the answer back, and just by thinking. This is theoretical, yeah, because sometimes these voices become a little bit conversational, depending on what I do. So it means also that this technology has been there for a while, because I've met people that have been under this or have related that this happened to them a long time ago. And as well, you can see a lot of people complaining about being targeted from the early 2000s. So this technology must be kind of outdated, but maybe people is afraid that this will go out because people doesn't know how to react. But instead to be afraid, they are not preparing people as they could. They are not preparing the people at the time this had been done. And what I feel personally is that they push me every day so I could fail. And that means that, didn't stop with the first psychosis in which I supposed to be violent, or the second psychosis 1.5 years after, in which I supposed to create a scandal about maybe something, an event related with a bomb. And it did not stop 8 years later when I have supposed to create misinformation on another thing. It just continued going in my dreams. It continues growing every day with voices. Yeah. It continues growing every day when I cannot write my essays. I have to go to the hospital telling them that I'm experiencing Havana syndrome. I call ACO and they treat me like crazy. When they ask you, have you been in a mental health hospital? No. Yes. But that's the point of that's the point of the duality. That's the point of quantum a quantum strategy. The point is that are two realities. One reality that can be seen, the other one that cannot be seen. Yeah? If you have heard, quantum computers can be 0 and 1 at the same time. So it means that I'm trapped. I'm a kind of slave, but at the same time I'm kind of free. But my life is limited. The truth is that every day I take antipsychotics, this is killing me. The truth is that every day I take antipsychotics, I wake up almost feeling that I want to cry. The truth is that if I don't take, after taking my antipsychotics in the morning, my medication for stimulants, then I wouldn't function the whole day. The truth is that if Medicare doesn't help me paying that medication, I'm fucked. The truth is that if my psychiatrist simply decides to not do the bulk billing for me, with the crisis of psychiatrists in Australia, I won't be able to give that kind of paper and fill the forms for the insurance, so my insurance could keep paying. The truth is that I cannot keep my work because these are weapons of mass disruption in which it's difficult to wake up. It's difficult to think. It's difficult to have reactions of happiness and surprise, joy, because the antipsychotics are shutting down your brain. Yeah. The truth is that there were certain patterns and correlations that, if being true, from my experience, this matches as it has been going, then it's serious. It's serious and it's concerning. And I cannot think about trying to be free because I don't think I deserve this. It means that I never broke the social contract yet. It happens to me without being a criminal, without causing harm. I was rather trying to solve problems. Yeah, I've been politically outspoken, but I didn't know that there could be a political police. But I hope that political police doesn't exist. And if it does exist, or this thing becomes automatized, well, if this becomes a procedure that is managed by AI, that's fascism, because then an AI will eventually, an AI will suppress certain realities, so these persons cannot flourish as human. The AI will choose persons to be suppressed because it's systematized. That's fascism. Fascism is the negation of other realities. In the old days, fascism was the negation of all other realities. But the features of this new fascism is certain realities should be suppressed, or only certain realities should be allowed. That's why I say that if this continues progressing like this, then if I have kids, my kids will have already a record based in the data of the insurance, in which your father had these genetic predispositions, so you're gonna pay more because you are more likely to be in jeopardy. Which means if you are more disadvantaged, you pay more, which puts you in more disadvantage. Yeah. And it might go not for the second generation, but it might go to the third generation. And then what is described as techno-feudalism by Yanis Varoufakis might be true. And there is not an antithesis, or there is no awareness of what's going on. Yeah? Then it could be even existential for the human race, because trying to control so many information, it creates the Babel's tower in which they stuck one thing over the other, just pretending to play God at some point in which, if they are able to build it, we're going to be all controlled, because as I say, this is all hypothetically, just to remember. I don't have anyone else to talk with this stuff. Like, I'm another person who will pay attention to this. So I just put it online. Maybe someone will pay attention, you know? But then probably social mobility will hinder. You are born in a family who has a considerable high social capital, then you will be able to progress and reproduce that social and cultural capital, economic capital within your family. But if you are born poor, it doesn't matter how much you do, doesn't matter it doesn't matter which education you have, there will be always an AI more smarter than you. So you will be stagnated because simply you don't own power. Yeah? And it's about that. In the future, maybe power will be conserved as a kind of circle to which you belong by right of birth, like in feudalism. Dangerous, that's fact. And believe me, the reality that I experience is like having this kind of technology being everyday interference every day, and it has been for 8 years. Yeah, and then I start to have this kind of pain depending on what I think, and it's just a matter of time. So if you think in the equation there is quantum computers, but it's about a matter of time in which this technology is so advanced that we cannot even understand it, and then we cannot distinguish what happened in the world. Yeah, if they are making propaganda with me after I'm dead, no whilst I'm alive, it means that it just continued on. Manufactured consent. That's what Noam Chomsky talks about. Otherwise, it will show that the means for arriving to that end as society have not been betrayed. Because if the means for which we lead society to becomes what we're gonna achieve at the end, it is simply what everyone is working on and waking up every day and doing what they keep doing in order to support, I don't know, could be certain values especially. But if the means to reach that goal are not betrayed, then the end is righteous, yeah? But when you reach a goal and you say, doesn't matter what we do, we're gonna use every single mean to reach there, then you create critical junctures in which these become procedures, these become ways of interacting. Something like, once we reach the end, we're not gonna do this. Yeah, it's impossible, because whilst you do that to reach the end, at the end, what you did before is the sum of everything that happened in the past. And that includes those means that you're supposed to not be using once you arrive to the destination. So all the conglomerate usage of certain, let's say, certain justifications will decide the end. And it doesn't look good, from my opinion. It doesn't look good because, as I say, I never did anything wrong. I never did anything to anyone. And then keeps pushing. And then as soon as I say, fuck, then this is the thing. When you are able to recognize evil and battle evil, then righteousness becomes clear. And that's light. And sometimes our mistake is not having the personality to confront, or not having the means, or not that, but sometimes it's having the good desire, the hope, but not being able to recognize evil. So I took the decision just to keep going in this line, because I cannot deny that this that has been happening to me is evil. Yeah, simple like that. And that's something that has to be battled, because it ends up in, let's say, Nazi science. Yeah, taking millions of Jews just to make experiments. Yeah, the experiments that the Nazis did were mind-blowing, were really, really cruel. Because, let's say, nowadays, an experiment, let's say, with monkeys is this Neuralink, maybe we'll need to sacrifice, I don't know, 100 monkeys. But when you need to do an experiment and sacrificing thousands of Jews, you have to think, okay, evil started at some stage, and evil was not stopped. Why? And we don't need to reach that level because it already happened, and many people from the social sciences already dedicate to it. So if there is something that is evil and keeps repeating, it becomes bureaucratic, or it becomes as a bureaucratic mean or bureaucratized, then it becomes automatic. And if it becomes automatic, then no one has responsibility, because as soon as it's bureaucratized, as soon as it enters in a mechanism that is automatically, like a methodology, then no one is accountable. And that's evil. And if this happened to me, because it's already a bureaucratic practice, we are going to an unknown place that most likely is evil.